Members of Congress from South Florida, Congressman Elsie Hastings of Broward and Representative Ileana Ros-Lehtinen of Pinecrest and Miami-Dade. Let's talk about the Middle East. We are having this conversation just as a ceasefire goes into effect, so we may be overtaken by events a little bit, but let's just sort of get it on the record. If over the border of the United States from Canada or from Mexico, if a group, a jihadist group of some kind, were firing missiles into this country, how long would we sit idly by without retaliating? And
it's amazing that not only is this what 9/11 is every day for Israel, but also that the international community sometimes does not pay attention to this ongoing strife and battle that Israel is a part of, until Israel decides, hey, we've had enough. We're going to retaliate in order to be defensive. And thank goodness that Congress, in a bipartisan way, is so supportive of programs like Iron Dome that actually is a defensive measure to make sure that those rocket attacks don't hit innocent Israeli population and has kept Israel safe. So we will continue in a bipartisan way to stand with Israel in this battle.
And that's a fact. The problem with the Iron Dome is there's not enough of them. There are only 5 batteries. They're $50 million a piece. I would advocate that we move immediately. Listen, Michael, from a geopolitical standpoint, this is the worst time for all of this to be taking place. We have issues with Egypt and the Brotherhood. We sat on the sidelines after the last...
But President Morsi, if I may interrupt, has stepped forward and been an effective kind of mediator in a way that I saw Shimon Peres say we are surprised by how effective he has been to try to end this, or at least bring a halt to it.
And we know the stick in the mud is Iran. During the period of time after the incursion in Lebanon, since that time, through Syria, Iran has reinstituted the war material of Hezbollah. So there could be and should be a legitimate discussion as to whether or not a ground invasion is necessary in order to take out whatever is Hamas. I sat with Bibi Netanyahu in his home, and he described to me the Ring of Fire. This is a particular precursor. We are having difficulty with Syria, of course, and the Golan Heights sits right there. We are finding those rockets coming in with more accuracy into Beersheba, in Ashdod, in Ashkelon, and all I'm saying to you is, in that entire region, for example, I didn't appreciate the Turkish president's comments regarding Israel. He is a major player. Turkey is a major player. Qatar is a major player.
Yeah, Erdogan has been. He wants to be the big guy in the in that part of the world, and he sees himself as the strong man, is building up his chits and elbowing his way, and that's not the way to do it. Now, I'm still concerned about the Palestinians trying to get that two-state solution, the one-state solution, really planned through the UN without negotiating a peace treaty with Israel. So we'll be looking out for that as well.
And you have to ask yourself the question: why did Hamas continue this rain of rockets? And the simple fact of the matter is that it could very well be a part of Iran's design to test all of the things, including Iron Dome. It could also be the design of Israel to have some of those tests ongoing.
I know both of you have been to Israel many times.
14 for me.
I have been there just once, and it was during the Intifada, and could not get to even the West Bank, much less to Gaza. But,
well, the Intifada continues. Now it's a different form. Instead of throwing stones, they're throwing missiles from Gaza.
Right, but I mean, the issue, it seems to me, is that you have the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, which is willing to at least talk and sit down and negotiate.
As corrupt as that leadership may be, at least, I mean, when you look at the parade of horribles, that's the less horrible option.
Right, but Hamas is, and they have the people of Gaza, which is called the world's largest open-air prison. It's really an awful place. They have them captive.
And they keep them in this dependency mode so that they see Hamas as the provider for everything, because the people don't have jobs, the children are afraid to go to school, they just get indoctrinated, and so Hamas is the big daddy, and they control through terror their own population.
Michael, there's an attendant feature that needs to be addressed, and we need to address it significantly in Congress. Jordan is having difficulties, and these are the people that absorbed Iraqi refugees, now have absorbed significant numbers of Syrian refugees, and had already had people who were never to return to anything called Israel, Palestinian refugees. We need to do something about the refugee issues that are stemming from these wars in the Middle East.
I'm sure you're right. You know, before we run out of time, particularly, Congresswoman, I need to ask you this. Next month, the so-called travel restrictions on Cuban nationals is going to be eased, even though anybody of real value to the Cuban government will not be allowed to leave, and they have to get new passports, and I don't think Ioanni Sanchez is still ever going to, poor lady, ever get out of the... But anyway, here's the question. Is this the time for Congress to look at the Cuban Adjustment Act, because a lot of Cubans who finally will be able to leave are going to go to third countries, and they're going to wind up in the United States. And, of course, the minute that they set foot on U.S. soil, they are granted residency.
Well, I think that we will be looking at the Cuban Adjustment Act, because based on another way of looking at it, there are a lot of Cuban Americans who are going to Cuba using the Cuban Adjustment Act a year and 1 day after being here to return to a country from which they said they had been persecuted. And so obviously, what is it that you're doing, going back to the place where you say you're being hounded and harassed, and yet you're there again. So this wet foot, dry foot policy also has been, it's like a roulette wheel, a game of chicken with people's lives, where you say, let's see if I can touch sand and touch the U.S. and how many lives are under the sea there.
That's if you're Cuban. If you're Haitian, you have a different issue. And that's why we need to look at immigration in a very significant, comprehensive way. And the simple fact of the matter is, if we do not address immigration reform, come 2016 we'll have a repeat of the same circumstances. It is critical that we do that, not only review the Cuban Readjustment Act, but that we review our policy as it pertains to immigrants in this country, period.
If immigration reform is not, if it is not really totally revamped, and we got a new immigration and fairer immigration system, and if Republicans don't support it, if they don't listen to you and Jeb Bush and a number of other reasonable Republicans on this, Hispanic voters are just, I mean, they didn't vote for Mitt Romney this time. They will not vote for whoever the Republican is 4 years from now.
Well, there are sound, humane reasons to vote for in favor of comprehensive immigration reform. I hope that politics is not one of the reasons that we should. But the reality is that we did not do well with Hispanic voters, for whom immigration
do that well with Cuban voters.
Well, you know, we could have done better, but we still did pretty well with the Cuban votes. With women, with young voters, I mean, the Republican Party needs to open up,
that as well.
and all minorities. But there are a lot of good reasons why we should tackle this important issue. And but let me tell you, even for Hispanic groups who don't think of immigration reform as the #1 issue, they hear the tone from Republicans as sounding harsh and non-inclusive, and they are saying, look, everybody in my family is a legal immigrant. Maybe they are even from Puerto Rico, natural-born Americans, but they see us as a non-welcoming party. So we need to change the tone. Hispanics would love to be, just like everybody else, entrepreneurs, own their own business.
You're not going to change the tone just by putting somebody at the top and saying, oh, we got us Marco, and that's going to change Hispanics. The simple fact of the matter is you have to like people. I think Bobby Jindal put it, if you want people to like you, you have to like them.
I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you.
You know, proud to have you both in Congress, and thank you very much.
We're very pleased to be there. Thank you. Thank you to the voters for putting up with us 2 more years.
Happy Thanksgiving. All right. Thanks very much, and we'll be back with the letters in just a minute.